Will we find out what May is really up to? Will we find out why Kurt Russell's character looks so good for being in his 90s? If we're just meeting for the first time, my name's Sean Redman. This is Sean's Take. Today we're talking about Monarch Season 1, Episode 3, entitled Secrets and Lies. I think that title's very important. And like any show that I do, when we talk about multiple timelines or big storylines, I'm going to separate it into the two different timelines and talk about each one separately. So we're going to first, this is the spoiler warning. From this point on, I will assume you've seen the episode or don't care if I spoil it. Also, I'm going to show some video from the show, which is protected under the fair use provision of the copyright law of 1976. Let's get to it. Start in the 1950s, where Wyatt Russell plays Lee Shaw, and he has obviously reached out to General Puckett for funding that Monarch needs to grow to be able to continue their monster hunt. And General Puckett arrives at the hangar. There is a brief discussion before he arrives between Bill and Keiko and Lee about whether or not they can trust the military, whether this is a good idea. And basically, Lee says, if you want the money, we're going to have to do this. If you want to keep it small and just go on our hunt, say it now. We'll withdraw our request. They decide that Lee's probably right. And the general comes up, they go in, and they show him the cast of the footprint they made, which we as the audience know is Godzilla's footprint. And the general says, what is that, a fossil? They said, no, it's a cast we made before the rains washed it away. It's current. Puckett does say it's just a footprint. How could something like that hide, not get photographed? Get me something else. And they do admit they could lure it out of hiding if they had 150 pounds of uranium. Now, this is the 1950s. We've just bombed Japan into submission. And that's important to remember when you're looking at Keiko's reaction to these military people, is that she is from Japan. So we cut to Bikini Atoll Island. And yeah, Bikini Atoll Island is the place where the bathing suit gets its name. Bit of trivia for you, if you didn't know that. And they arrive, Bill and Keiko and Lee arrive to find that their uranium has been delivered to them in the form of a bomb. The bomb is sitting on a tower, and they've painted the no Godzilla symbol on the side of it. Of course, this doesn't go well with Keiko. You know, it's such the early days of nuclear bombs that, you know, you still see, and they still do, the lawn chairs set up on the beach a little ways away so that people can sit and watch the detonation of the bomb. We really did stuff like that. It's like a spectator sport. Keiko tries to stop them. Lee physically restrains her to stop her from stopping them. Godzilla does in fact show up, which was, for anybody that's paying attention, it's the first footage of Godzilla in this show that was made for this show. The other footage that was used of Godzilla is actually from the movies and reused. So Godzilla surfaces and walks right up to the bomb and is examining it when they light it off and the bomb explodes. When we can see again, Godzilla is gone. So they believe they've blown up Godzilla. If this is your first go around with Godzilla, there's not a chance that, and this is a spoiler, there is not a chance that he's dead. There's no way the bomb did any damage of any kind. More than likely, he just ate some radiation and went on back under the water and vanished. So Keiko is distraught that they've killed Godzilla. Bill, speaking to Keiko, says, what should Lee have done? If you had done what you were trying to do, you would have been arrested, probably deported, and all of the work would be over. At least the work can continue this way. Lee comes out and says, hey, I made the pitch to the general for our funding, and I pitched him the most I could think of. I wanted monitoring stations all over the belt. I wanted, all of these equipment and people, and he refused and said I wasn't thinking big enough. And Monarch has now been given a blank check to run Monarch however they see fit, to find out if there's any more Titans and how to deal with them. Keiko says, do we have to tell them if we find anything? And Lee, being clever, possibly the most clever person in the show. Bill and Keiko are scientifically smart, and Lee is life, we would call it street smart. Like he thinks quickly. And he does have the line, by the way. I did like the line when the general shows up and says, who'd have thought you'd turn your babysitting assignment into your first command? And Lee says, yeah, it's a little like herding cats when they all think they're smarter than you are. And that might just be to endear himself to the general. We'll have to see how the rest of the episodes play out. Because I think there's a secret that Lee keeps as part of this secret and lies. So Lee, back to the, says, I can only tell him what you tell me. So I trust you to tell me what I need to know. Basically, Bill is saying, if I don't know, I can't lie to him, right? If you keep it a secret from me, I can't lie. Because if I lie, I'm going to get court-martialed. So, it's not really going to ever work out that way if it goes sideways for Monarch. And, thinking back to what we're about to talk about, he does end up with an anklet on, being detained by Monarch. So who knows which secret or lie put him in that position. So we have our three 1950s cast happy that they have their funding, and we see the beginning of Monarch as it's going to be known in 2015. And when we get to 2015, we do pick up right where the last episode cut off. When Lee Shaw cuts his anklet off and throws it in the lake and says, you got about a minute to decide what we're going to do. So as we dig into this, if you're enjoying these, please hit the like button. It means a lot. If you follow good television and you want to hear the rest of these, I'm going to do this whole season among other shows. Hit the subscribe button so you know when we put out new content. You don't miss any. Okay? And let me know in the comments what other shows you're looking forward to. Maybe to give me some ideas on the next shows I should cover. Okay? So they make their break for the van. And before they can get to the van, the alarms go off. They're out of time. Kurt Russell takes the keys to the minivan. They jump in the minivan, and he can't find the spot to put the key. And they said, no, you just hit the button. So what button? And Kate reaches over and hits the button. He's like, oh, all right. And we have a little action sequence with Kurt Russell, which is always a good thing. I don't know if I mentioned this in the previous video, but I've been a fan of Kurt Russell since he was making Disney movies as a kid. The World's Strongest Man and all of those movies. Fantastic. Loved him. Have loved him forever. And he's doing a great job in this. And I'm liking his son Wyatt as the younger version of Shaw. And I think they're doing a good job combining on a character. So they get out of town in the minivan, and we end up with them on a ferry, or a barge, more like, heading to South Korea. So they get out of Japan, we assume because of Kurt Russell's, Lee Shaw's connections, and they're, heading across. And you have some time when you're crossing that way. May tells them that she has digitized all of the files, and they're on her laptop, which she has with her. And Lee Shaw says that we don't need the digital files, and they can probably track these. Let's get rid of them. And after a brief conversation about why and blah, 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 they do toss them overboard. We do see May on the phone, on the barge, standing at the railing, talking to somebody cryptically about when she might be back, and then hanging up and throwing the phone into the ocean. She says, "Time's up." Click, throws it, as if she knows how long it takes for calls to be traced, for them to locate the cell signal. So I think that's a secret that's going to have meaning. I don't know if May is with Monarch, if they've already gotten to her when they were at her apartment or before, or if she's a different level of hacker than we even realized. But I think May's going to be a problem of some sort. When we get to Pyongyang in South Korea, Lee Shaw says we have to be in line 2 to get to my friend. And they get into line 2, but line 1 empties, and they call him over. So now he has to go back to line 1. And of course, he's explaining why he doesn't have his passport. Do you speak English? This, that, and the other. They are all taken into custody and taken out back to be put into the van to be transported. And the second guard hits the first guard and throws him into the van, locks him in. We now have met Lee Shaw's friend. This was all part of the setup. And they head to, Lee Shaw says, "Did you get all the equipment that I asked for?" And he says, "Yes." Which is nice. We don't know when he asked for it. We don't know how he reached out or what he asked for, but he says, yes, he got it. So, and it turns out it's a equipped airplane that's old. This plane in 2015 looks like it would have been old in 1950. The new friend's name is Du-ho, and Du-ho says it'll get us to Alaska. And it's funny, my first thought was, how the heck is it going to do that? It's got to come all the way around the planet. But it doesn't. It's got to go, from South Korea across the Pacific into Alaska, sort of northeast. It's still a pretty good ways, but the willing suspension of disbelief. So they take off and they're on their way. There was a point earlier I meant to mention when they were in the van, and Lee Shaw talks about Monarch was formed in the late 40s, 1940s. And May says, "Wouldn't that mean you're in your 90s? Lee Shaw says, "What can I say? Good genes." And that's the only explanation we have for why this 90-year-old looks in his 70s. I'll say that because Kurt Russell's actually in his 70s. So that's a secret, why he looks young. I don't know if it's going to play into this season of this show, but obviously that's a thing. He does say at one point that Monarch was built on hopes, dreams, and ambitions, and that Monarch has lost their way because they're chasing kids instead of monsters. And Kate has an issue that, in the 50s, they knew that there were monsters like this, and they didn't issue any warnings to anybody because she was there in San Francisco when Godzilla destroyed the city. We do get to Alaska, but in the meanwhile, Monarch's Tim, who tried to kidnap Kate last episode, and his sidekick partner Duval. I think I only know Duval's name because it's listed in the IMDb page. I don't know that we've ever said it, but they meet with Tim's boss from Monarch, who he didn't want to know that the files were being used. And she shuts down their little escapade and sends Tim back to Monarch headquarters and sends Duval to go make sure nobody says anything. So she doesn't want Tim working on this anymore, and she tells Duval to get a team and go handle these people and just shut them up. Duval makes the case that Tim understands these people, Lee Shaw, and he'll understand the files when they recover them more, and she needs him. And so that's allowed to happen. And that's all we really see of them, is that one conversation. Kate does have a moment where she does admit that she's not sure if she's more afraid of finding her father or not finding her father. The new friend piloting the plane says, well, at least if you find him, you can tell him to go screw himself. Which is probably what she needed to hear. We then get the instruments of the plane going nuts. Lee Shaw takes over piloting the plane because he's the best pilot, especially in that old of a plane. He has Kate put a bottle of water on the instrument console because it's not affected by whatever is affecting, and he can just see the level of the water to keep the plane oriented. Pretty good trick, except, then they plummet straight down for, 3,000 feet and almost hit the ground and then level off. And then, of course, they land basically where Hiroshi landed, the dad. They tie down the plane and they start looking, and they immediately find a plane wreckage. There is a person in the pilot seat that is not Hiroshi, their father. They find an encampment full of equipment that is recently used, with pencils that are whittled sharp the way Hiroshi whittles his. So they're pretty sure he's not dead yet, or at least he wasn't. They hear the pilot screaming, and he's running for all he's worth to their plane because he saw claw marks in the side of the downed airplane, and realizing it was a Titan that destroyed the plane. The plane landed safely, like theirs did. He's running for the plane. Kurt Russell immediately says, go run. And while they're all on their way, the pilot gets into the plane as the new Titan, labeled a Frost Vark, and it sucks all of the heat out of the airplane and the pilot, killing him, freezing him solid. And and then it smashes the airplane. And the last thing we see is the Frostvark turn toward Lee Shaw, Kate, and May. And that's the end. I don't know if Hiroshi will turn up to save them somehow, make a noise, light a fire. Maybe it's attracted by warmth. I don't know. We'll have to wait till next week to see that one. So in this episode, we discussed several times the difference between lies and secrets, and that secrets are not lies. And I think it's an interesting place to put Hiroshi, in that the two families that he had didn't know about each other. So was he lying or just keeping a secret? Because they have to redeem him somehow. I don't think as an audience we should be put in a position to have somebody who's attempting to be a hero be so flawed that he's an adulterer. So I think there's going to be something in the story to redeem him. Lee Shaw saying that Hiro is more like a son to him than a nephew. And there were some moments where Lee and Keiko share a look. And I don't know if it's ever going to go anywhere, but he certainly has a thing for her. What do you think? What do you think the story is with Hiroshi? And are we going to see him before the last episode? Like, is he going to turn up next in the 4th episode? I'm enjoying this show. I like the new versions of Godzilla. Wasn't a big Godzilla of the 50s and 60s, but this new trend is entertaining, and especially this series, I think, because they're telling us a story that happens to have Godzilla in it. It's not a men are stupid, nature's going to kill us, which is what all the original Godzillas were. Because if you don't know, the whole secret to Godzilla is that he is our protector. Godzilla turns up when we as a species need him, and he does whatever needs to be done and then goes back to waiting. So I am enjoying this. Let me know what you think. That's it for this review. I'm Sean. This is Sean's Take.